As the pages of this story unfold, it becomes clear that this is not just imagination, but a profound layer of human consciousness that still remains unfamiliar to us today. The narrative is based on the real research of a doctor who dives deep into the minds of three patients, trying to uncover what truth really means. The story begins with an elderly man. Dr. Allen carries a fresh wound on his head, his glasses are broken, and his eyes reflect an unusual exhaustion. He switches on an old recording and, in a heavy voice, declares that he has completely understood the state of mind, insisting that the accusations against him are baseless. With that, we are taken into a flashback to the year 1959. Inside the cold walls of Ypsilanti State Hospital, we see Dr. Allen, who has just been appointed there. The atmosphere of the hospital is filled with despair, surrounded by patients trapped in their own isolated worlds. One night, Allen's assistant, Benny, calls him to handle an emergency. It is here that Allen encounters Joseph for the first time. Joseph is screaming, his face flushed with anger, shouting that he is Jesus of Nazareth and begging to be saved from the electric shocks. Overcome with rage and fear, he has injured his own hands. Allen approaches him not just as a doctor, but as a fellow human being. He calms Joseph down and promises that he will not be subjected to shock therapy. This assurance brings peace to Joseph's troubled mind, because in truth, he does not want to endure the torment of electricity. The next day, when Joseph comes into Allen's office, he is calm and composed. He thanks Allen and requests that his favorite opera music be played. Yet he also gives a warning. He insists that he should not be called Joseph because his true name is Jesus. Allen does not challenge this claim, knowing well that if he tries to break Joseph's belief or refuses to acknowledge it, Joseph's anger could erupt. Soon, word spreads throughout the hospital that a doctor is supporting Jesus. At that moment, another elderly patient named Clyde enters Allen's office. Clyde mocks Joseph, declaring that no matter what others say, he is the real Jesus and that the smaller man is lying. He argues that just as two Sauls cannot fit into one sheath, two Jesuses cannot exist in the same hospital. The situation becomes complicated for Allen. Later, he shares everything with his wife, who smiles and advises him that he must find the solution himself. The following day, Allen arrives at the hospital and sees Joseph being taken for shock therapy once again. Benny explains that during the night, a terrible fight broke out between Clyde and Joseph, and in the chaos, Clyde shattered Joseph's beloved opera record. This drives Joseph into a furious rage. Allen tries to stop the other doctors, but the hospital's head physician, Dr. Orbis, refuses to listen. Joseph is given the shocks, and watching him suffer feels like torture for Allen. That night, Allen visits Joseph, apologizes, and then goes to Dr. Orbis, pleading that shock therapy should no longer be used on his patients. Orbis mocks him, saying this is a mental hospital, and if the patients do not improve, Allen should not blame them. Around this time, Allen is assigned a new secretary named Becky. He tells her that they must show empathy toward the patients, but without becoming part of their delusions. Allen asks Becky to dig through old records to see if there are others who also believe themselves to be divine. Becky discovers that in another hospital, there's a patient named Leon who also claims to be Jesus. When Allen meets Leon, he encounters a very different personality. Leon is highly intelligent, skilled in arguments, but also prone to anger. Allen challenges Leon by asking why. If he is truly God, wars still exist in the world. Leon declares that when he preached peace, humanity crucified him, and even now, he is imprisoned in this miserable hospital. His words shake Allen deeply. Moved by Leon's personality, Allen arranges to have him transferred to his own hospital. His purpose is to bring all three men together, so he can study their states of mind side by side. After this, Allen begins to explore the pasts of all three men, hoping to understand why they have chosen to wear the mask of divinity. Joseph is born in Canada. He dreams of becoming an army officer, but his short stature makes him the subject of constant ridicule. The mockery of society and his repeated failures break him so deeply that he even tries to poison his wife, and eventually he falls victim to schizophrenia. Clyde, on the other hand, once served as a Navy officer. The unbearable grief of losing his wife and child isolates him from society, and he begins speaking only to himself. Leon's childhood is marked by fear. His mother locks him in rooms while she goes to work, leaving him terrified. Over time, that fear transforms into anger. Later, he becomes a soldier and shows bravery during war. But when he returns home, he demands that his mother worship him. When she refuses, he attempts to take her life. In truth, all three of these men are individuals rejected by society. To escape their pain, they turn away from reality and construct imaginary worlds of their own. And within those worlds, each of them believes he is divine. Each of them sees himself as Jesus. Alan begins seating all three men together in the same room. At first, the atmosphere is filled with intense conflict, each one convinced that he alone is the true Jesus. Leon senses negative energy from Becky, while Joseph expresses his desire to travel to England to spread the message of peace. He even writes letters to the church, but the hospital never sends them. Alan's first attempt fails completely. Yet Alan is not someone who gives up. He chooses a new path. With Becky's help, Alan creates letters tailored to each man's imagined world. Joseph receives a letter from the church in England, telling him that he can continue sharing God's messages right where he is, without needing to travel. Leon receives letters from his imaginary lover, Madame Yeti. Clyde is sent letters from his family, urging him to stop bathing so frequently, since he believes constant washing purifies his body. Alan's method proves remarkably effective. These letters deeply influence the three men's lives. Once unable to even look at each other, they now sit together playing cards. Alan's experiment begins to succeed, and their lives show real improvement. But then Dr. Orbis discovers the truth about the fabricated letters. He insists that patients must be told reality. Alan presents his case before board member Dr. Abraham, who makes a striking observation. He says there are not three, but four Jesus. His point is that Alan himself is acting like a god, controlling the stories of the three men. Meanwhile, Dr. Orbis reveals the truth to Joseph. Joseph's heart breaks. He realizes that the doctor he trusted most has deceived him, and his anger explodes. Orbis decides to subject him to shock therapy again. When Alan learns of this, he tries to stop the other doctors. When they refuse, he lashes out physically, and in the struggle, Alan suffers a head injury. Because of this behavior, he is dismissed from the hospital. Before leaving, Alan meets Joseph, who is now calm. Joseph tells him that he knows Alan acted for their well-being, but insists that he alone is the true Jesus, while Orbis is a devil. After this, Alan departs. Yet Joseph's mind continues to race with countless thoughts. The next day, Joseph makes one last request to Dr. Orbis. He asks to be shown God's view from the bell tower. Orbis agrees. At the top of the tower, Joseph looks into Orbis's eyes and says that he has ruined Alan's life, and now he will never let him live in peace. With those words, Joseph leaps from the tower. When Alan hears what has happened, he rushes to the hospital to see Joseph, but by then Joseph has already passed away. Joseph leaves behind a final letter for Alan, expressing gratitude and thanking him. Along with the letter, he gifts Alan his cherished opera music. Alan knows that all of this tragedy stems from Orbis, so he holds him accountable before Dr. Abraham. As a result, Orbis is dismissed from the hospital, and Alan is transferred to New York. He takes Clyde and Leon with him, determined to ensure that what happened to Joseph never happens to them. In the snowy hospital of New York, Leon asks Alan why he lied in the letters from Madame Yeti. Alan explains that it was to help him step out of the illusion and face the truth. Leon smiles and embraces Alan. By now, both Clyde and Leon are far better than before. The greatest lesson of this story is that often we are not fighting the world, but the illusions we create ourselves. Joseph, Clyde, and Leon were the mask of Jesus because they cannot accept the bitter truths, failures, and deep wounds of their lives. When reality becomes unbearably painful, people often build imaginary worlds where they are the greatest. But true courage lies not in proving oneself divine or superior, but in accepting one's flaws and sorrows. Until you face your truth, you remain a prisoner of your own mental cage. The day you admit, yes, I am broken, is the day healing begins. Alan tries to heal the three men, but in some ways, he also controls their lives. Like Alan, we too often try to control others, believing it is for their good. But we must remember, we cannot be the authors of someone else's story. Real inspiration does not come from changing others, but from listening and understanding them. This world does not need electric shocks. It needs empathy. The love and support of one human being for another can dispel even the darkest mental shadows. Greatness is not measured by status or self-image, but by how human you remain despite your weaknesses. Facing the truth may be frightening, but it is the only path to freedom. So this is the complete story of the film. We hope this journey has touched your heart. See you in the next video. Till then, stay safe, stay healthy.